Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Star Fox Zero video walkthrough. We are on Zones, the occupied planet, and this is Covert Ops. So the gold score for this is going to be 79 hits, and it will guarantee the gold medal. And this is one of my least favourite stages in the game. In fact, it is my least favourite. I do not like controlling this vehicle, and I found it very tricky to get this score because I didn't realise that you could blow up these searchlights by picking up the bombs. And the moment you realise you can pick up those bombs, it makes getting the score considerably easier. But before that, I was swimming around, I was flying around trying to get those bastards who were swimming to jump out of the water to squeeze every point I could to get that score. And it really wasn't working. It took more attempts than I care to say. Because believe it or not, folks, this might look like a kiddies game to you. It might look like a standard Nintendo game. But it has been designed by Platinum, so there is a measure of challenge here, and some of the scores are pretty tricky to do. Especially if you're ignorant of how to score them right, which is what you're all going to be before you start playing. But this little tangent builds on to the next topic, which I'd just like to express in this video if you're coming to this and you're new, or if you're just watching this one for whatever reason. You know, YouTube's a wonderful place, it's full of all kinds of different content, and every so often I get people who tell me what I should be playing, and wonder why I'm playing certain things. And the problem with this is quite simple, folks. Since I've started on YouTube back in 2011, I have played what I wanted to play. I've took suggestions, I've done, you know, small projects from recommended things, and I also have a Patreon reward where you can request me to cover a project. Outside of those instances, it is always something that I am motivated to play and I want to play, rather than what somebody else wants me to play. So if you see it on the channel, guys, it's because I want it to be there, and it's always been that way, and it will always be that way. So the people who come along, and it's usually people I don't recognise, asking me why I'm covering something, or if I should be playing, you know, a proper game or something else, to me it just comes off as a really ignorant statement. And I can appreciate that you might not like what I'm covering, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, not everybody likes everything, that's the point. But please don't tell me not to do something, because then it's just going to put a rift between me and you, and I'd prefer to have, you know, interactions with subscribers that are awesome, rather than ones that are saying like, dude, I'm going to do what I want to do, why are you making this awkward? Because nobody likes that, you know, nobody likes those needless, repetitious arguments that happen on YouTube, and for the most, I don't really have them anymore, because I avoid them. But if you see it on the channel, guys, it's because I want it to be there. And if you don't like it, just watch something else. You know, I've got plenty of other videos, there's plenty of other channels. As I previously stated, YouTube really is a feast for everything. So you might wonder what I'm doing here. I'm waiting for these cranes to line up so that when I shoot the bracket on it and it drops those girders, it's going to hit that red dude. And if you do this, you can get a bunch of extra hits, and it's an instant kill. The only problem with it, of course, is the aiming on this game is not the easiest thing to do, because you're using the other controller, and timing it because of your depth perception on that perspective is additionally not too simple either. But keep on pushing forward, trimming down enemies as you see them to get those quick hits, and if you see any searchlights, you can pick up those explosives with that little man that you drop, and then you can drag them into the lights and it will blow them up that way, and it gives you hits. So we're going to be doing that towards the end, but this is slow progress because this vehicle is not the most mobile, and I'm making sure to just keep on getting those hits, keep on clipping those enemies, and build towards that score. You can do a secret mission on this particular zone where you come back through in a Star Fox R-Wing, I think they're called, and that's way more fun because it turns it into a level that's, you know, as it should play, rather than this very slow, laborious, you know, sneaking around, because there's a little element of stealth to this sequence. But this vehicle doesn't control very well, and it's all to do with the fact that every other vehicle, I think, or this might be reversed because it's been a while since I played, but there are vehicles on this game where when you press the right analog stick, left and right, it does evades, and then there are other vehicles where that makes it turn. And when you get used to one style and you come back to another style, it feels really bizarre, and it can kind of affect your brain in a lot of ways, as I keep getting hit by those blue energies that do the multi-hit afterwards. Very annoying. It's that blue creature over there that's doing it, so I'm going to try and hopefully clip him. There's a nice lock-on shot. See you later, buddy. nearly there with the score, just under halfway. And everybody's felt that feeling of kind of being brain dead when you're playing something. I had it yesterday, it was wonderful. For the last few days, I've been playing a lot of God Hand, and God Hand has a very specific control scheme. It's unlike anything you've probably ever played, because it uses tank controls, but it uses them interestingly, and I think it suits that game, and I really wish that it's a mechanic people would take forward and try and do interesting things with it, because we have all these indie games that are making, you know, old school looking games that are meant to look like they were on the N64, games that were meant to, I say N64, meant to look like they were on the SNES, you know, meant to look like they were on the NES, meant to look like they were on the Mega Drive and everything. So we have this resurgence of these games that are made to look like a very specific period in gaming. I would love to have these older mechanics like pre-rendered backgrounds, even though God Hand doesn't have those, but you get what I mean, the whole Resident Evil stuff being done to a different degree, and a modern degree, because we haven't seen those artistic styles and those techniques for quite a long time. But I really think God Hand, in spite of the times when it feels awkward, and it really does feel awkward at times, it controls superbly, and it's a control scheme that the more you play with it, the better you get, which is the perfect kind of control scheme. I don't like control schemes where, after 10 hours with playing with it, I'm no better, I have no more expertise, and I don't have any kind of shortcuts or advanced level of strategies to implement certain techniques using those mechanics to make things better and make my life easier. And there are a lot of games that are like that, where you don't really need any kind of expertise, any kind of mastery, and you can just kind of go for it. But God Hand and various other games are just not that kind of thing. The more you play with that, the more you'll get used to it. But it is weird, and I don't think you can argue that it's weird. Anybody who plays it, it is one of those things that the adjustment period is really goofy, and it takes a while. But I managed to pick it up and start playing. I did a couple levels the other day, and then I went to Transformers Devastation, because I was in kind of an action mood. I'm waiting for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan, even though it's getting kind of slaughtered. So I put on Transformers Devastation, and of course it's a completely different kind of game. And I couldn't remember the buttons, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was that funny moment of just like, whoa, how do I play this again? I couldn't remember how to turn into the car and do the vehicle moves when you were doing mid-combos. So I was like, how do I shoot, how do I do this? And then it took maybe 40 seconds for my hands to slip back into that old rhythm. And then immediately, I was smashing everybody and we were getting S ranks and what have you, and it was going really well. But for about a good minute, I had no recollection of how I was meant to play that game. And those moments are crazy when you do those weird adjustments. But sending the little dude into the room, he's going to open up this main chamber that allows us to descend into the core and do some sabotage. There's a creature just over there. Little tip here with these dudes too, do not go closer to them because it seems to make them shy and they don't want to pop out of the ground. So if you back up, you'll notice it starts jumping again. It's this really fiddly mechanic, but they're all extra points, so try and hit as many of them as you can. Just everything adds up, guys, and this is a game where you really need to squeeze every hit. There is about 3 or 4 levels where I got the score comfortably, but for the most, if you're not an exceptional scorer and you don't really know the best lines, the best patterns, and you haven't put a lot of time into them, you're going to have issue, which hopefully these videos will alleviate. Because you may wonder, you know, how many attempts does it take me to get these scores? And for almost 99% of the levels, it took 1 or 2 tries, maybe 3 tries, if I got close but I messed up in some way and I knew I messed up. And then there were other ones that took, this one took about 6 tries, which sucks because it's the worst level in the game, I think. And then there is the final level and the return to Corneria, which I couldn't get the best scores on those two. And I tried the final level about 3 or 4 times and just kind of got bored. I could always get really, really good fights at the beginning, and then the Andross fight was always kind of the same. I didn't see a faster way or improved way of killing him to get extra hits or anything, so it just used to stagnate, and I didn't want to look up any ways to score, because, you know, I'm making a walkthrough, it's not what it's about, I'm trying to find them myself. But I'm sure that there's tons of them online at the moment, because this has been a while since I originally started making it. And then the Corneria one, outside of that dusty dragon level, which is a bonus level, which is one of the hardest levels in the game, Corneria 2 is so crazy, so busy, that there's the potential to get really good scores on that level, but I just couldn't do it. And it sucks too, because I really like that level. don't much like scoring, and I'm having trouble picking up this bomb thanks to my depth perception as I get shot by this guy. Take that, bitch! Eat my bomb! That was +6, that one. Don't know if that was higher than dropping the girder on them, but every little helps. See why my aimer is now? This is because I'm holding the controller in a weird place, probably, so the aim is way off the screen. It looks like I'm drunk. That was a good one, managing to hit them at the same time. And that's one of the reasons why this walkthrough is going to be a little bit disenfranchised in some ways, because you can't see what I'm doing on the controller, and it would be obnoxious if I was able to put the screen up like you do in Wonderful 101, so you've got that super low-res screen, and then the stuff happening on screen on your television. It does have to be said, though, the screen on this game is of a much higher fidelity than the Wonderful 101, which makes a lot of sense, because of course the Wonderful 101 is amazingly chaotic, and the frame rate is considerably higher than this game at times, and considerably lower than this game at times, so it's a bit of a... Ooh, that was a good one. I was looking on some articles the other day as well, about frame rate in games, and I was looking into Platinum to see their track history of what games they've had that were 30 frames per second, and apparently Mad World was 30 frames per second. I played that on the Wii. I didn't finish it because it was a friend of mine's. I don't know if he finished it. He got a bit bored with it and ended up trading it in. But I don't really remember that affecting gameplay too much. One that really blew me away was Vanquish. I didn't realise that Vanquish was 30 frames per second. I could have sworn, and would have probably argued without googling it, that it was 60, because there's something about Vanquish where it still manages to feel awesome, even with that slower frame rate. And there's no PC version of Vanquish either, so you can't get it at 60, but if you could, that game would look absolutely astounding. Really, really beautiful. Which is a big shame. Apparently there's been a petition for years and all this kind of stuff. But some of the reports were saying that Anarchy Reigns runs at 30, but once again, I thought Anarchy Reigns ran at 60. So I'd have to go back and check it to see how it plays. Because there were a lot of people saying that Wonderful 101 plays at 30 and it doesn't. Wonderful 101 is 60 frames per second. I can, bet stakes on that, because the frame rate tanks in that game are epic at certain moments, and the frame rate is for the most really fluid. But it's just this notion that Platinum have moved towards having this standard of 60 frames per second. This game, I think, is 60 frames per second. Problem with this game, though, is it slows down a lot. There's a lot of moments where it spends way below whatever its frame rate threshold is than it should. And I'm not really too sure why. It must be maybe the power of the Wii U, something like that. But I can't fathom, for a company that understands the importance of frame rate on gameplay and has adhered to a standard of trying to have high frame rate, would then release a game like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is not visually impressive, it's not technologically impressive with the stuff it's doing on screen, it's not demanding. I mean, it might be a little demanding with some of the particle effects and all the turtles moving at the same time, but, it's not Wonderful 101 levels of insanity, and it's on considerably more powerful consoles, so why can't it do 60? I don't get it. And if you look at some of the earlier footage for the game, when they were marketing it, and they had that guy from Activision who marketed Transformers Devastation and Legend of Korra, you'll notice that they said that they didn't put local co-op in that game because they didn't want to kill the frame rate. They had a 60 frame rate goal, and they wanted it to stay that way, and if they were to add that mechanic, it would have taken a dive. And you're like, wow, that's, it's a sacrifice, but I'm glad you've made it, because that 60 is very important to especially somebody like me. And now you get the game, and it's locked at 30 on PC. This is not an impressive looking game, guys. This is not fucking Witcher 3 on Ultra. This is a very easily... It's an Xbox 360 game in essence, yet the PC's 30? Like, what is that about? And I'm hoping that one of those DS people or those awesome modder guys is going to pick it up and uncap it and make it so it can run at 60, because it bloody can. But why do the devs not do this? Which brings us to another discussion inside of Platinum, because Platinum are getting a lot of shit for this, for a string of rough games. This is one of them, and then the next one, of course, is Turtles, which is getting some subpar reviews. And I want to elaborate on some of these as I move over here to the next area that we've got to sabotage, as I take my time picking up the bombs, dodging the spotlights, and killing the boats that are pretending to be I don't know what they're pretending to be, like Loch Ness monsters under the sea. They're loving it. But a lot of people are writing Platinum off and, you know, calling them crappy and all this kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, if you feel that way, that's perfectly fine. I can understand some of your criticisms. But you can't judge a full company based on what the smaller teams do. It seems kind of silly to do that. And I myself have been... I don't know why I say that, I hate that. I myself. What the fuck is that? As opposed to who else? What a strange piece of language that escapes one's throat. I personally... There you go, that's a bit more personalised, isn't it? I've been harsh on other companies that might have had sub-teams that have worked on certain things, and I've not really realised, but it's never been a directed thing. It's probably just out of ignorance, and if I were to be corrected, then I would reappraise my evaluation. But when it comes to Platinum, these Activision deals are not the real Platinum in a lot of ways. It's using a lot of the company's, you know, resources and management, and it's got some big names in production credits, and some of the directors have been, you know, some of the top tier ones. And they've had some good results, because anybody who thinks Transformers Devastation is a bad game is somebody who just doesn't like that kind of game. Transformers Devastation is perfectly fine. It's not ambitious, it is short, and it has a lot of shortcomings, but when it comes to fighting, when it comes to being Transformers, and when it comes to what Platinum do well, it's a wonderful game, and I absolutely adore it. And that was done by, I think it's Keiji Saito, who was the director for Metal Gear Rising, who's the guy from Platinum who went in with his team and salvaged Metal Gear Rising, which is another game that, regardless of your criticism of that game, you cannot say it's a bad game. It might not be to your tastes, but it's still a solid game, and I absolutely adore it, and I would sing its praises. This game had Hashimoto's credits on it, who was the guy who did Bayonetta 2, worked on Bayonetta 1 as the enemy designer, and has worked on some of the higher echelon of Platinum games. He's one of the higher ups. He's moving into the directing position, because Hideki Kamiya's giving him that push to, you know, be creative and do his own thing. And Bayonetta 2 was a fantastic game. So there are some big credits on some of these games, guys, and some of them just haven't quite reached that potential. And the next few videos are going to be us discussing as to why that is. Because, you know, another credit on this? Shigeru Miyamoto, the grandfather of Nintendo games. The guy who, for a lot of people, is probably the most inspirational force in video games, if you know who he is, and I hope you do. But not everybody likes Nintendo, so maybe you don't. But thank you for watching, and as always, you take care now.